is LTV.
Inside Leominster is brought to you in part through the generous support of MP Crowley Incorporated and by Rockland Trust, where each relationship matters.
There we go. Hello and welcome to Inside Leominster. I was just sharing this on Facebook. I'll do it right now. And we'll hit this and that and that. And we're shared. Perfect. Thank you. It sneaks up on me every time. Anyway, welcome to Inside Leominster. My name is Dean Mazzarella, Mayor for the City of Leominster. We have a good show for you this afternoon because, well, a lot of things. Some interesting things. We'll be talking about Whalom Park, and who didn't have an experience at Whalom Park. And then we'd be talking about Taj Narbonne. It's been missing for decades. And it's actually an interesting story, and the story behind the story, you're going to find that out today. You're going to find out some things you've probably never heard about. In the meantime, we have our pop-up sledding event at Southeast Hill, Francis Drake Hill, whatever it is you call it. It's a hill. It's right in the corner. It's up by the corner of Viscaloid Ave and Johnson Street. We don't have a rope tow, so kids, if you're going down, you got to haul yourself back up. There is no rope tow in place. And but anyway, we have music. We have a DJ for you tonight. We'll have a drone out there taking some cool pictures, and then we'll have refreshments for you. How's that? It costs you nothing. And it's a beautiful night too. It's beautiful out there. We'll take a short break. Our phone number is 978-534-1626. You're stuck with me for the next hour. The control room is really full back there. I'm not sure everybody's, what are they doing? You got them all busy? You got them busy doing things? All right, good. We're in good shape. You too. I didn't forget you. I'm just making sure your hat's on right. You know what I mean? You look dapper with the hat on. You have more than one of those hats?
Yeah.
You do? You have like an array of them?
I only have three right now.
Three, and you choose them based on how you feel each day?
My winter one.
That's your winter one.
Got ear flaps.
Oh, flaps. All right, short break. Coming right back, and we'll be talking about Whalom Park for a whale of a time.
Hi, welcome to the Kids Video Club podcasting session. Today we're going to talk about drawing and art.
I'm Raina Lee.
I'm Mia.
I'm Flynn. I'm Justin.
So, first subject, what's your medium, guys? My medium is I like to use colored pencils, and I like to sketch and blend stuff. What about you?
I like to blend and paint things.
I like to sketch because I just feel like sketching is a nice way to art and color and draw.
What about you, Justin?
I like to paint.
Yeah. Painting's really fun.
I personally don't like painting.
Yeah. Painting can be difficult and easy. It
Difficult
depends.
parts is how you do the coloring.
Yeah.
And the difficult parts is how you learn. I disagree. I think painting's pretty easy. You can paint anything. Even a scribble is painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes actually a lot of sense.
What do you draw on?
So drawing can come in many different art forms, not just paper to pencil to paper or brush to paper. So makeup, for example, that's kind of like a drawing in art form.
But you're just drawing it on someone.
Yeah.
Or yourself.
Yeah. And so I like to do makeup, of course, pencil to paper, and sketching. I'll also sew, which is another art form.
Yes.
Is there anything else we should cover?
I think that's pretty good for the day.
Okay. Well, that's it. That's a wrap.
And that's a wrap, they said. That was great. I like it. Those kids are talented. Kid says, I disagree. And he says, I use paints or whatever he said. It was pretty good. Thank you. Anyway, that was part of the school vacation podcast?
No, that was part of the kids' video club last week.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, last week for vacation, right?
Yep,
School
that's
vacation.
one of the things I learned.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Anyway, we're back here, and we're going to be talking about Whalom Park. Now, if you're new to town, or maybe you're not old enough, there was a amusement park in the most northern section of Leominster. It was right on, I guess, Leominster Lunenburg line, and some of the things were, most of it was in Lunenburg, but
Yes.
Leominster shared many things, and just like some of the Whalom Lake is, and most of it is in Lunenburg, but we share it. Anyway, we're like partners in Whalom Park. Anyway, we're going to be talking about that tonight. My phone number, if you have any questions while we're here, give us a call. It's something nostalgic. You want to tell us about a memory, please do at 978-534-1626. And Bill Tyler's here and Mike's here from the Historic Commission. And thank you. Got a book myself that Mike presented. And Bill Taylor is the author of the new Whalom Park book. Now, has there ever been a book done about Whalom Park?
No, just to set the record straight, there are 3 authors. I'm one of three. No, this is the first one that's exclusively about Whalom Park. I know you're familiar with the Images of America, because Leominster has one, I believe, at least one book.
Yeah.
And Lunenburg has one, and there's a short section in the back, like maybe half a dozen pages on Whalom. So but we decided it would be a good idea to try to produce one just all
Just
Whalom.
about Whalom.
Yeah.
And I bet you found out there is more material about Whalom once you start writing and people hear about it than you could possibly put in a book.
Exactly. It was. We have a treasure trove of information about Whalom, the history of it, and everything. So it was fairly easy to write about it. Some of the pictorial issues, we had some problems with getting enough photos, but we managed to get enough.
I know that there are pieces of Whalom all over the place.
There are.
They've landed everywhere, and when they had the auction, people came in and purchased some
Exactly.
things.
Yeah.
And what year did actually what year was actually Whalom opened?
It opened in 1893.
Really, it was that far back?
Yes. Yeah. And it started off as it was basically just a picnic area of all pine trees and
A grove, they call it.
Yeah, and actually, funny enough, where Wilder Ave is, the name was Thomas Wilder, who had a house there on right on Wilder Ave, looking down on the lake, and he had a cotton mill. But around 1880, 1881, this gentleman named Nelson Stiles started hacking away pine trees and trying to create walking paths and gardens, and they had animals, a deer walking around in there, and it just slowly evolved into then they had boats that you could rent, and so it slowly evolved into what would look like an amusement park.
So it started off as like a hobby.
Yeah,
And then he had a vision to make it something bigger, and the next thing you know.
Yeah.
So did he actually build the actual amusement park?
No, that came once Fitchburg and Leominster Street Railway became owner. They're the ones that actually constructed the park.
And they brought trolleys right up
That
through.
shrewd, yes.
Right up. In fact, the F&L bus road is still there.
Yeah.
We still call it that. I don't know.
The bus line, yeah.
It originated in Depot Square in Fitchburg and up Summer Street, and the Leominster, I assume, had a line that went also.
Yeah, the old F&L bus line. That got. And so the idea was to well, I mean, people didn't have automobiles, or if they did, there weren't many around.
Right.
So they would, I'm sure it was pretty affordable, so the family could get on the bus and they transport them up there and spend the day or an afternoon. And
well, the F&L had there was a method to the madness. They wanted to increase ridership.
Right.
And so that was, you put an amusement park at the end of the line, and there you go.
we now have somewhere to go. Sounds like the amusement, it sounds like the Leominster Park that we had down here off of Lancaster Street.
Yeah.
A little bit, Mike. But that was a big thing at the time.
Yep.
When they first started this.
Yep.
And then they started to put money into it and start bringing in amusements.
Yep.
They had the theater.
Yep.
And and it really became a big attraction.
Oh, it was, and for Central New England, it really was the park to go to. I mean, and the theater attracted, top-notch
Big time.
actors from Hollywood. I
Big
mean,
time.
it was
Guy Palmerton.
yeah.
He was a Leominster resident, by the way. He was. He lived at 1521 Main Street, Leominster, right where the old Captain's Lounge used to be. And I think he was the second house down from the Captain's as you're going down towards the boat launch. But he was the. We could probably have to consider him the Ed Sullivan of the North Central Massachusetts area. He just seemed to know how to, he was a showman, and he knew how to bring in these big stars. And during July and August, you just didn't know who he's going to, Mickey Rooney or Jane Mansfield. And I mean, some of these people, and they got a photo here of Mickey Rooney in here. And I remember when I was 13 years old, and I was over at King's Corner on Baroni's Pharmacy there, and I was on my 10-speed, and all of a sudden, I slammed the brakes on. I got off the bike, and I'm walking into Baroni's. I look up, and they had a picture of Mickey Rooney on the front door. And Mickey Rooney had just been on the old Combat TV show.
Right. Combat.
Combat, yeah, with Vic Morrow.
Combat.
Yeah, I know that guy. And that's I started to realize that, this was a Hollywood atmosphere that Guy Palmerton was really bringing in.
It's amazing. And where was that little, like, if you head down to the lakefront, there was a little lounge or something on the side there. What was that called? If you're going down the lakefront, go by the church, and you kind of, just before you get to the boat launch, you kind of go right, but right on the side there was some sort of a lounge or something.
Was it like a pavilion?
No, it was a lounge or a...
You're not talking about the Rose Garden.
Yeah, that's what it must have
Oh,
been.
the Rose Garden.
Oh, yeah.
It was right on the corner there.
Yeah.
Before you take a right, and then you go on the Leominster side of the Rose Garden.
Yeah, okay.
I remember that. I'm old enough to at least remember that.
All right, okay, yeah.
But this became a big thing where they had games and novelties and a roller coaster. I mean, I often think that if they could have waited a little bit longer, the trends came back. Things changed. So it was a popular place, and then all of a sudden there were other things that were getting people's attention. I don't know whether people were traveling further or they were going away for, let's face it, people didn't have a week to take a vacation and go somewhere.
No.
That was basically vacation for people, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought if they could have hung in there longer, look at places like Storytime, Santa's Land, and some of these other places. I'm like, they Hershey. They, if they just could have hung in there a little bit longer, I think they
could have. I really think they could have.
Yeah, 978-534-1626. For a whale of a time, we're talking about Whalom Park and how big it was. And I remember a lot of the traffic on the weekends.
That was the
coming off Route 2.
Oh my God, yeah.
I remember people coming on July 4th, coming in from Roxbury and Mattapan and busloads. And of course they live in the city.
Right.
And for them, that's like, there was, that was like a big deal to come out. And picnics and food and barbecues going, and what a time that was for them. I mean, it was a big deal going to Whalom. I even at my age, it was a big deal to go to Whalom Park.
I remember Cappy's restaurant used to shut down on 4th of July because, they would come, these hordes of Bostonians were coming in, and they were taking silverware or whatever they could get there. So Cappy afterwards.
Well, you have a barbecue, you need silverware.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it was a big thing. People would come from all over the place, and it was such a big thing.
Well, it was doubly for me because I worked there.
Likewise.
I worked there from 1965 to 69, and so it was a really great.
Did you work
place.
on the rides?
Yeah. I ran all of them one time or another.
Yeah.
I ended with a roller coaster was one of the last things I ran.
Roller coaster, for some reason, wasn't my favorite at the time. I was always worried about, like, this thing's made out of wood.
Yeah, it's stronger than it looks and sounds.
No, I know, but then I remember they'd always be up there checking it and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was a daily. You had to walk the track every day. You had to walk the whole thing and check
just
for everything.
Just looking for defects or something that might need to be replaced.
Yeah.
But you knew what they were looking for.
And you sent a test train up there to just make sure it was, so it was.
I think at the end when they were closing it, it's when people started to realize, what a treasure we had.
Something special.
At this point, there wasn't anything to hang on to. It was a decision they made to close. And
I think people took it for granted that it was just always going to be there.
And remember, places like Sturbridge Village, really suffered when people could get on an airplane for $75 and fly somewhere and go to, Disney for, the park pass was $75.
Yeah.
Well, why would you be going up to Whalom Park?
Right, yeah.
So, people had more reliable automobiles. They had other places to go, beaches, and people were starting to, accumulate some money. They could take a week to go to Hampton or something.
Yep.
So what was the main attraction became something kind of secondary. People were doing other things and traveling more often. And I remember Sturbridge Village was suffering from that because people weren't, it was a big thing, but then all of a sudden it wasn't the big thing it was anymore other than school tours and stuff.
Right, yeah.
And people were going to other places. They go to like the Big Apple for the weekend.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they were traveling. They were going to, different places and spending time and spending money elsewhere. And but you're right. At the end, I felt nostalgic, but I felt at the end that, geez, what a, just a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
And this is like, this is now we're losing a piece of history that was so important.
There are a few of the carousel horses around that people had bought at auction.
Yeah.
It's funny because one of the attractive things about Whalom was always a family park.
Right.
Where you could go with your grandmother, even if she didn't want to ride, she could walk in there and sit down and watch.
On the benches outside the fun house.
Yeah, you didn't have to pay to get in, so it was really a nice park.
Kids could walk that lived in the area. People weren't worried about safety. They could ride their bikes to the park and go inside, and it was really a special
Free
place.
admission back in those back in the 60s.
And the lakefront would be packed, and the restaurants would be packed. The pizza place across the street near the golf thing would be packed. Everything. I mean, it really was an economic boom for the city.
Yeah.
So tell us some of the favorite things that you have in here, Bill, that are part of the book, or maybe the other co-writers of this that you think are things that people might never have known about Whalom Park.
In one section, and after the introduction, it goes. There's a list here of interesting trivia about the park. It is rumored that in 1896, William McKinley visited the park while campaigning for president.
Yeah.
There was also the park rides had a ride called the Whip and the Kitty Whip.
The Whip, I love the Whip.
Yep. But it was built by a company with the unsettling name of Mangles Manufacturing.
Mangles.
Yeah, you mangle.
You can't make that up.
No. I remember the bumper cars.
Yeah.
That smell from the static.
Yeah.
Remember that smell? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The bumper cars.
Some of those head-on collisions get boom.
Yeah.
Well, people that just had, I don't think you could really control those cars, but they made you think you could.
Yeah,
And they just kind of went on their own.
No, there's a lot of interesting tidbits in the book. A lot of great nostalgic photos that we were able to, that we could reproduce, and there's some really great photos of. Whalom had 3 roller coasters. A lot of people probably don't know that.
Yeah. I know they had a little one. I remember the big one.
Yeah, they had 3. The first one was called the Green Streak.
Oh, okay.
And it was built in 1923, and that was short-lived. It was only 5 or 6 years.
24.
And then they built a second one called the the name escapes me now. But it was the second roller coaster that was destroyed.
Hurricane of 38.
In 1 year, there was 2 tornadoes and a hurricane.
Right.
It completely destroyed it.
Oh, that's awful.
And
I remember the kiddie rides because I was young, and they were awesome. I mean, they looked and felt like they were bigger than they really were. And they had the thing that goes up and around.
Yeah.
And I remember those things.
I ran the Gemini capsule. That was back with the Gemini program there, and those capsules that went up and down. And I was the operator for that for 3 years.
Shooting Star, that was the name of the second one.
Shooting Star.
Yeah. I knew it was Star. I couldn't remember the first name.
I don't know why, but I think I remember, but maybe I don't. There was a big slide.
There was a big slide.
All right, so I'm right then. I wasn't dreaming this stuff up.
Yeah.
It was a metal, like a big slide.
Yeah, it was a huge slide.
They give you a burlap bag or something, or a rug or something. You get on the thing, you go fly.
There was actually a wooden slide there in the early 1890s that ran off the bathing pavilion. It was a huge wooden slide that people would slide down on.
Right into the water.
The FNL
remember that.
Beach.
Yeah.
That was the favorite swimming place for the people of King's Corner and all the way down to the turnout.
Right.
As they would go up to the See, Lunenburg had their own beach on the other side there,
Yeah.
Aqualand.
Yeah, you couldn't go there.
And so, but the Leominster had the F&L beach, and everyone in Leominster, especially on a hot day in July, was over there.
Yeah, where else would you go?
Yeah.
What a perfect spot. The I assume at some point they made money. It was a money maker.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then towards the end, their partnership was with an insurance company, because I think part of the thing was all of a sudden liability became a big thing. Nobody would think if, you know, I twisted my finger or twisted my arm coming off the slide or jolted my neck on the whip. No one would think of, you know, calling Morgan & Morgan or calling somebody to file a lawsuit. But then we became just that everything was litigated and liability, right? I mean, all of a sudden, you know, banks wanted to make sure you had proper insurance, and insurance companies said, hey, you know, you got people out here. What if they slip, they fall, they trip? You know, things happen. And I'm sure, and they did have an affiliation, right? Part of the ownership was with an insurance company, right? Some of that owned an insurance company.
At some point, I believe so.
Yeah, and that was towards the end. And then at some point, I'm sure, you know, the cost of utilities went up.
Yeah.
And then just, you know, the amount of people dropped, and I know they started to charge towards the end there.
Yes,
That was,
last 10 years.
If there was anything that was contributed to the downfall, was they fenced the whole park
thing and then
charged
charged.
admission, and that was the beginning. It took a long time, but that was the first start of the decline of people wanting to go in there, and the management was changed at the time, and they started piping loud rock music all the time, and it was just. It wasn't the same.
Yeah, I kind of think that at the time, and I still think that sometimes when you let people in as free admission, they're going to spend just as much money. They came with X amount of dollars to spend. They're going to. So if you charge them to come in, you know, some places charge to park, then they charge to get in, and then the kids want something to eat, and then it just becomes unaffordable. My thing is, if you let somebody in and the kid shows up with $10. He's going to spend the $10.
He's going to spend $10, yeah, exactly.
So the notion that you let him in and maybe walk around, so maybe I don't spend the whole $10 tonight. Maybe I go there 2 or 3 nights, but I bring a friend.
Yeah.
And that friend spends $10.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think that was I think they thought maybe that's the way to raise more revenue. Then on Friday and Saturday nights, you know, bring in the rock music, and that kind of scared away Grandma and some of these other people that might have come in with the grandkids.
Exactly, yeah.
But it was a strategy they tried. Not all things work, and sometimes it's successful. But
that wasn't.
That was right. I agree. That was. I went somewhere, I forget where, and I'm like, okay. So we get in there. It's like $20 to park, and then we had to get in. And I'm like, when does this end? And I was buying stuff. I'm like,
exactly.
Wait a minute, I'm here to buy something.
Yeah.
Like, it's a show, like I don't know, a trailer show or an RV show or a boat show. I'm like, when does this end?
Yeah.
You know, and but it was quite the place, and I think there are different generations of memories, because things were added and other places were more. Like, what was the skee ball thing? I didn't play much of it, but I remember people were there every night.
That was on the lakefront.
Yeah, right on the lakefront. They played that game where the ball goes up and they give prizes. And, oh my word, there were people that were there every single night.
Yeah.
You know, playing those games. Yeah. And it was on a Friday in the summer, Friday and Saturday night. You get an ice cream. It was really the place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And in fact, when we had that company come in and want to do amusement rides, what we really tried to do is do it along the lakefront. And they thought they were. I still think, for the amount of equipment they have, we could still do it there. I think people would come back to that event.
They might. It's kind of challenging to do it there with the, having to, be able to, have, emergency vehicles go through there.
Well, I was thinking of doing just lining them up all along the lakefront, and but then you have the issue of parking. You've got condos there now. You don't have. Anyway, it was a good thought. That
it would be. No, it would. Definitely.
And then I thought, well, even if we could get the Ferris wheel down there, get the Ferris wheel down there and let that run with the reflection of the lights from the lake at night.
That would
might be
cool.
a cool thing. You might be able to raise some money, but. I think different generations have different memories.
Exactly.
Certainly during tough times when, the mill cities here, people that make a whole lot of money, it was an affordable place to take your family and have a good time.
You could ride the trolley for 10 cents.
Yeah, just keep going, right? On the trolley. I don't think they kicked off.
My one memory of Whalom, I grew up in Whalom all my life. But what I will not forget was I lived about maybe 400 feet from the park. And back in the early 60s, my mom would put me and my brother upstairs. We had just the screen windows, and it was during the summer. You could hear those girls screaming down the roller coaster,
you could hear
all the way down to North Street
you
and
could hear
Summer
them all
Street.
over. Hands in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, I will not forget that. It was like synchronized. It was amazing.
Well, thank you. Anything else? I mean, you wanted to? I mean, I'll get your back on as many times you want because different people watch at different times.
Well, I want to give Mike an invoice for some more books that he's. We're selling books like we can't keep them.
How many have you sold so far?
We're up around 400.
And where can you get them?
Well, you can get them at the Historical Society in Lunenburg. We have a website, lunenburghistory.org. You can order them there. You can get them on at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So we're about to have some more printed, because where our event season is coming up in the spring, where we sell some more then.
Now, who runs, you know, the display that Scott Lanciani, and so there's some things that have been preserved. So is that part of the Lunenburg Historic?
No.
That's part of the Whalom.
They have their own museum.
I thought there was some items displayed at one of the when they brought the amusement items into the Doyle Field. I thought there was a display, theirs and then somebody else's.
Well, at the very first Whalom weekend, we had the Historical Society set up there, but we haven't been there since then. But
do you have things that are Whalom Park related?
Oh yeah, we have
that's
a
what I
ton.
thought.
We have a ton.
And then Lanciani has a bunch of stuff too.
Yeah.
And I've always said, raise some money and buy one little piece.
Yeah.
You know, just get one little kid's ride.
I mean, we're open every Wednesday morning from 9 till noon, and we have all sorts of memorabilia.
Cool.
So we have one of the, remember in the fun house, those wavy mirrors that just sit in front of? We have one of those.
I want the one that makes you look slimmer.
No, we don't have that one.
I want the one that makes you look smarter. Is there one that makes you look smarter?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. We'll have you on again. But heck, 400 books, pretty good. And it's something special if you want to send something to somebody, and maybe they don't live here anymore, they're retired somewhere. Get one of these books and send them out. They'll be like completely freaked out when they get it. They'll be so happy. Yeah, because it's, like I say, everybody remembers Whalom Park. Even if you run into someone and ask you where you're from, and you say you know, Leominster or Lunenburg, they don't know where that is, but you remember Whalom Park? Oh, well, I know where it is.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's like Devens.
Yeah.
Like Fort Devens.
Yeah.
You don't know how many people. We'll do a whole thing on Devens, but so many people. They have a number of Facebook pages of just Fort Devens.
Yeah.
And it is amazing to how many people have a link to Leominster through that Fort Devens page. Yeah. You know, station here, so a lot of people stayed. Some stayed for a while, but moved back. Some stayed and got transferred to other places. Yep. But there is so much history on just Fort Devens as it relates to this area. You know, between not just Shirley and Ayr, but Leominster and Fitchburg. I mean, if people spent any money, they spent it here, Leominster or Fitchburg. Yeah. I mean, that's where they stayed in hotels if they had people visiting. Exactly. On Thursday night, we used to call it Green Night down at the mall because everybody had that sticker on their car to get in, you know, so they had the Fort Devens, and everybody was in uniform and they got their checks and they'd all be down at the malls, you know, spending money. Yep. So we could do a whole show on that. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you very much for having us. Much appreciated, Mike. Thanks. And we're going to be talking about the 250th pretty soon.
Yes, I've got a couple of questions we'll discuss next week.
It's the 250th. It's the birthday of this country, and so much is getting planned. And then the World Cup at our MassDOT meeting yesterday. This is like a big event, and a whole lot of planning going into it. And our MassDOT meeting yesterday, we talked extensively about this, and we're going to get a chance to have two big screens set up here in Leominster for two of the finals. Oh, wow. The playoffs. And so we got a couple of those things working on with the state, and then also kind of around here with Mass Youth Soccer, and it's going to be exciting. And if any of the teams that have local representation, like Brazil or Haiti, or any of these teams win, you can expect big parties around here. That's all I could tell you. Oh, big parties. Soccer or football is big, right? All right, taking a break, and then we'll be right back here at Inside Leominster, 978-534-1626. Be right back. There you go. We're back here at Inside Leominster. I was just looking through here. Harry James performed there. There were so many. I mean, if anything happened in the Twin Cities here, it pretty much different theater groups. If anything happened around here, it happened there. And yeah, Harry James dancing at Whalom Park and Lake. Neath the beautiful pines. New Mammoth Ballroom, strictly censored. 10 times around the hall, 1 mile. I don't know if they're out there walking or running or what, but some good pictures here. Anyway, next segment we'll be talking with Pat Aubuchon. Thanks for coming on, Pat.
Oh, you're welcome, Mayor.
And geez, one of the first things, at least on my end, that I became associated with is Taj Narbonne. And the story behind the story is this young, how old was he at the time?
9. 9 years old.
And gets reported as a missing person.
Right.
Lived off of Union Street.
Yeah, 15 Naples.
And which is across from the Mass Audubon.
Yes.
And he just mysteriously turns up missing.
Vanished.
You know, typically, and I can't remember another case, kids turn, if it's a kid, even somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, they typically don't go missing during the night.
Right.
That's really unusual.
Right.
So that alone was sort of a red flag.
Right.
And this all happened, what was the date? I'm sure you have it.
March 31st, 1981.
1981.
Yeah.
And so the police department kicked into gear and did all the obvious things. Talked to the family, and the family says, we don't know what happened.
Vanished. Yeah.
Just, he's gone.
Right.
And then do all the obvious things. They search the neighborhood. They go into the woods across the street. They talk to the relatives. They interview people. They go through neighbors. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, they initially, the belief was right, that it was a runaway. That's what, everything. And back then, that's what a lot of people don't understand, right? Back then, someone to report a child missing, right? There was a waiting period.
Well, that's a bit. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, there was
it was hours before anybody reported.
I think
so. He could have been anywhere.
And it was Dominic Tater who took the first report. I think it was 4:30 or 5 o'clock that evening. But the mother reported Taj missing in the morning.
Right.
Right. So it took all day for that report. That's and investigating it. Right. When I started looking at it back in 2002 or so. It took me a while to understand the difference in investigations.
Well, how things happen then and how they happen now.
And especially now, right? Someone goes missing, it's immediately on social media.
We go right away. We send everybody. We send the drones out.
Yeah.
In fact, we encourage parents, especially with kids with autism or developmental disabilities or Alzheimer's. We're like, don't waste any time. Maybe you'll find the kid in the backseat of the car hiding, but time is of essence. We really need to get out there quicker, and we stress that and can't stress it enough. Call us. We're never going to be mad at you. We'll be happy that you find a kid. But in many of these cases, the longer you wait, to report this, that time that goes by, who knows what might happen.
Time is so important.
And still, he could have been a runaway and then ran into a situation that.
Right.
I remember a situation where it was weird. We got a call at the station down where Pix used to be.
Okay.
Down at the intersection there. And they said, you know, something looked unusual. I forget the whole circumstance. It did look, and there was a lady standing there, and I don't remember the things, but I remember calling George Brewer, car one. George goes there and said, there's nobody here. Lady turns up dead later.
Wow.
Gets reported as a miss. She worked in a factory nearby.
Yeah.
She was walking to wait for a ride, and somebody picks you up. You don't know what happens,
Right.
and we still don't know what happened.
Right,
and
right.
we have some suspicions on, you know, the kinds of things that might have happened. But like you said, you go back to 1981, and how things were handled then everywhere is totally different than even bringing in, you know, gathering evidence.
Yeah,
The different devices and electronic things that we have today, totally different.
Yeah, there's one thing that hasn't changed, I've realized, is that first initial police officer.
The intake.
And that first, that first report is so vital.
Critical,
Right? It's so important. And even looking back at different cold cases, you know, it's those first initial reports that really hold all of that vital information. That hasn't changed, you know, from 1981 till present. You know, it's so important.
Those important questions that you ask.
Right.
978-534-1626. We're talking about Taj Narbonne, and Pat Aubuchon is here, and he took up on the case of what, 2002?
2002.
2002, and said, I'm going to take and run with this and see if I can find out. I know that a couple of times, you know, the emphasis was maybe he's across the street.
Yeah.
In Mass Audubon. And I still think that maybe it's time that maybe, I don't know, dog sniffers.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
you know, radar or sonar, other different things that we could do to go back there and maybe, you know, take another look in the area, because this, I mean, the length, 1981, the length of this thing took many twists and turns.
It has. Yeah.
And I can remember Lieutenant LaPlume. This was like his baby. He was like obsessed with this. And he also was Air Force Reserve or Air Force. So he had the ability to fly free.
Right.
And I remember getting calls sitting at the desk, 2 o'clock in the morning, and somebody says, I think I saw this kid at Central Park, or I saw him with somebody. Because the way he looked like Dennis the Menace or something. Like he looked like a lot of kids.
Yeah, right.
And then I would tell him, and he'd run in the back room, and next thing I know, he's flying on a plane,
somewhere.
putting up posters.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't like every possible lead wasn't followed up with.
Yeah, there, you know, and there were a lot of, like you said, he was a very, I don't want to say a common-looking kid, right? But you know, any of the leads that came in, you know, Lieutenant LaPlume, you know, followed up on those personally. You know, he did. And where, you know, today, right, you have the ability now to, you know, send a picture on email, or you know, that's everyone, you know. You
missing
have
persons groups and
cases are in NamUs or you know, National Center of Missing and Exploited Kids. You know, and all it is a phone call or an email and say, you know, hey, can you follow up on this for me? So, but yeah, he put a lot of time into it.
A ton. I couldn't believe. I mean, I don't care what time it was. You could call him and say, we just got somebody that called here, and he might have been working the midnight shift, but it was, you know, 11 in the morning. He come flying down the station. Jump on that, check, you know, trace it down. I can't. The weirdest thing is the calls we used to get at night, like late at night, and we'd get like, hey, I saw this leaflet up in Central Park, and I think I saw the kid. And you want that to come in. I mean, look at the Guthrie case right now.
I know.
There are hundreds of thousands of leads and people that think in there is some, you know, and the thing is, somebody saw something, there was some lead. I mean, look at the Marcotte case.
Right.
I mean, forensically, you know, I was asked by some of the, you know, people close to the family, you think they're going to catch him? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why? I said, somebody saw something.
Something.
And forensically, it was a drought. And we didn't have any bad weather to disturb the crime scene. I said, and they had a team of people in there forensically from the state police. I said, they're going to find somebody. There's no question in my mind. And it turns up a trooper sees this guy because somebody put, we saw somebody. Next thing you know, trooper's driving down the street in Worcester, sees somebody that looks like that.
Right.
He writes down, he doesn't need paper, he writes down this thing on his hand, and they make an arrest.
Follows up, gets DNA.
Next thing,
Right.
and they make an arrest. And so many twists and turns in this, and I've heard so many hypothetical.
Yes.
We think
Yeah.
there was somebody that was living in the house that we've always kind of thought might have had something to do with this.
Yes.
But no forensic.
No evidence.
Nothing.
No physical evidence.
Not a sock.
And
not a
I can
piece of clothing.
share a couple of things that aren't. That person passed a polygraph.
Right.
Right. And you take and you understand this because you were a police officer. I always. It's social media is a positive monster and a negative monster, right? And people were like, why wasn't this done? Why wasn't that done?
Right.
And
you watch too much TV. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the CSI effect. So, it's that word called probable cause. And if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Yeah,
and
you can interview somebody
if they want to be.
Right.
If they want to be.
But if not.
Right. But it's usually that physical evidence, right? It's usually, physical evidence, the direct evidence, circumstantial evidence. And, we've gone, really full circle.
But not even a piece of clothing, not a thread, not a sock, not a footprint, nothing.
Nothing.
Just
nothing.
Just a total disappearance.
A note that wasn't determined when it was written, but written, in his handwriting, in Taj's handwriting. But Taj was actually living with a foster family at the time.
Right.
And, he returned that night, and it was that night that, he disappeared.
And he had a lot of involvement with his grandparents.
A lot of involvement.
Right.
Eunice and Lewis were, I spoke with, that's actually how the case really began, other than seeing the all the paperwork in a box in the detective bureau, in the old detective bureau at 29 Church Street, we're all crammed in there. And I asked one of the detectives, what is that? And he said, missing kid from 1981. And Rick Gallant and I actually went through that whole case and put everything in chronological order.
Ricky either just got there in 1981 or just after.
After, yeah. So we put it all in chronological order. And, I knew that I had to reach out to the mom, but no one knew where she was.
Right. People moved.
She had moved.
People passed away.
She had not been around the area for years.
Right.
And so I went and talked to the grandparents. And, I kind of chuckle at it now because, the grandmother went up one side of me and down the other and said, at the end of our conversation said to me, how do I know that you're just not another cop that's coming here?
We've talked to so many people
to appease us, and you're going to disappear.
Right.
And it was at that moment that I said to them, hey, I'm going to stick in this for the long run.
Didn't we do some test pits down at the Mass Audubon, some digging down there?
We went there not long ago. I know at the time Leominster Civil Defense was all those records of Jimmy LeBlanc and Jim Lanciani and all those guys did a lot of searching down there. But you're absolutely right. Going back to what you were saying, when you're talking about searching, right? You have that human element, where there's room for mistake, and much of that area has been researched again, right? But there's always that, I think back and say, geez, we went and did that 10 years ago, right? But should we go again?
Sometimes you missed it by a couple feet or something, or the dog was in a bed. It was another scent coming through the. Somebody was cooking burgers or something. It was a scent.
And then on the other investigative side, there is, we know that his home life wasn't great.
Right.
He was in a foster home. Yeah. He had a lot of loving family, especially his grandparents. But is there a possibility that someone helped him?
Right. And that was always a theory, that put him in a safe place.
And he's out there.
Moved him in another state. So we have all these pictures of Taj at 9 and 15, and then we have a new one that looks like he'd be what now? He'd
be
50 something years
almost
old.
55.
This is what he looked like now.
Right.
But you would think that DNA or ancestry, something, he might not know, but someone would turn up.
That there'd be a link.
And in theory, I always have hope because almost every other day I hear about somebody that turns up that was either taken away because of a domestic situation, for their own good, kind of and I heard, church might have been involved in relocating them, getting them out of here.
Right.
I think that theory works, and I'll tell you why. No evidence at all. There's no footprints outside. There's no footprints over at nothing. There is nothing, which would indicate the kid gets picked up, gets put into an automobile, and they're gone. Yeah. Right? The search starts at the house, and then it goes to the neighborhood. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Where is it now? It is giant, right? And Pat, my other theory about this is somebody knows something because somebody took him from there.
Yes.
So somebody knows something.
Yes.
And look at the Tuttle case, right? It's like, where is Tuttle, right? Joe Sis was active on that.
I can share a quick story with that. I was working on Midnights in Car 3 up in North Leominster, and I was parked on one of the side streets with the lights off, and a car comes down, and I see this car pull to the side of the road, lights shut off, and I see this guy get out, and he walks behind a house, and I'm like, what the heck is going on, So I walks behind the house. I drive my cruiser across the street. I don't even call out. I'm like, geez, I walk behind the house.
By the way, it wasn't uncommon to not call out.
Call out.
It's just common, like no big deal.
If something's going on, it's just kind of like,
I'll check it out first, and then if something's going on, then I'll call for help.
Where's this guy going? And it was Tuttle's father. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, in the backyard of, I don't know whose house it was, he said, my son, Richard Tuttle, I'm trying to find him.
Was he on that street across from Our Lady Lake?
No, he was further. He was down by right around the Heritage Gardens area.
All right, yeah.
And he said, my son's name is Richard Tuttle. He's missing. I'm trying to find my son. And I said, get back in your car, meet me up at the gas station, up at King's Corner. And I talked to him for about a half hour, make a long story short, and I called Joe Sis. It was probably 2:30 in the morning. Of course, he picks up.
Oh, yeah. Joe's already awake.
And that was it. That was all that case needed, was that push. And, and credit to Joe, because that's what gets information rolling, right? Is when you continue, that's that continuous effort.
Right.
Regardless.
Keep going. Keep it a high profile.
Keep it high profile.
And then it ended up, Tuttle's, I remember talking to the family, they wanted closure.
Yeah,
and part of the plea agreement with this was, well, that happened, but at this point we've been through so much. We want to be able to have a ceremony, a funeral. Right. We want to have a place and put them to rest.
And they had that. And that Dick just passed, too.
I saw that. I saw that. And that was like a big deal for them, closure.
Right.
And in this particular case, and so I always hold hope that somewhere, somehow, he's out there, because we found no evidence. And there's an investigation, right? Not to bore people, but there's a saying in at least rape investigation is every room every one of us walk into, you leave something.
Yes.
Something.
Yes.
All right. And this Guthrie thing is. They have something. Trust me. I don't know what it is.
That's right.
They have something.
Well,
because, right? I don't care. A little bit dandruff. Something. Everybody walks in. You leave something. Right.
Right.
And I think the fact that we've not had any clue, no evidence, taken at night.
Right.
And not just spur of the moment, taken at night, leads me to believe he's still out there somewhere.
We just had, going back to social media, and I'll always post, right around his anniversary. But it was 2 years, a year and a half ago, I had a friend of his reach out to me and said, I need to talk to you about something. And, here we are, right, 43 and a half years later. This kid and his mother provided information about Taj's life that we never knew.
Right.
And
Because they didn't think it was relevant to the investigation.
and not to mention that this young man at the time, right? He had to actually work through that and process that. But he you know, people always say sorry to bother you,
Yeah.
right? And like you
always
just
think to
like
bother.
you said, right?
I'm going to call the police department.
to your
but
viewers.
they're busy.
Right?
I don't have time for this.
But that's why we're here. And so anyway, he provided that information, and then, you know, within the last 2 years, we did another physical search outside of Leominster relative to the case. And you know, sometimes people want to know everything about it. You'll understand this, but like the Guthrie case and like all these other cases, there's that element that law enforcement. It's not that they can't share it. They don't share it because when someone comes along and provides information on a case, right? That's when you know that that's valid information, because it's something that's not known to the public.
Sometimes the little piece. Right, we had a rape case and they found a sock.
Yeah, yes,
And
yes.
talk about critical to the case. It's the sock.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to do a quick here. No, Pat, we're going to get you on again because this is interesting stuff. At some point, I'm sure it'll be the podcast that we can do here. Let me go through some slides real quick. People wait for this stuff. But anyway, Pat Aubuchon is with me, and he picked up the case in 2002. The Taj Narbonne, it was missing at 9 years old, and it's now 45 years ago. And still looking. It's a cold case, but I don't think there's a such thing as a cold case anymore today with the technology that we have. And I was thinking to myself, facial recognition. Just imagine if we've scanned in Taj's face, because, just not to let this out, but if you were ever out there and you had a brother out there and you guys are similar age and you guys did the whole, made up the ID and you got an ID and he got an ID so you go drinking because drinking age was, 21 or 18, you weren't old enough. And it's 40 years later, you go to the Registry of Motor Vehicles and you get a new picture taken and your brother gets a new picture taken. The RMV has facial recognition. They go into the database and they find out you at one time said you were your brother. And guess what? We have the right to revoke your license. Right. So that, in other words, even though that was 20 years ago, facial recognition picks up on those things. So it may happen that somebody, now that people are doing Wegmans and a lot of these companies are doing facial recognition, that somebody may go somewhere, a hotel, traveling somewhere, facial recognition has these pictures, picks up that you are Taj Narbonne.
Right.
All right. Isn't this interesting? Huh? Interesting stuff? All right. If not, okay. Let's do some quick ones. It's Black Lives Matter Day. It's International Tongue Twister Contest Day. That's a tongue twister. Letter to the Elder Day today. Nothing better than being a senior and you get a handwritten letter. I got a handwritten letter 2 weeks ago. It was the best thing in the universe. National Pistachio Day. That's a tongue twister. National Toast Day. Tell a Fairy Tale Day. And Thermos Bottle Day. I'm going to skip to pictures of the week. I never know what they are. It's the, what is it, the angry old man or something. Do look at 9 a.m. That was during the storm. I sent the reporter to come out, and I'm like, you want me to take my hat off? And they're like, no, that looks fine. I said, but I wasn't going to take it off anyway. And thanks to the DPW for all their hard work. What a remarkable storm. And I'm hearing from cities all over the state, like, where it went wrong, and I could just tell you a lot goes wrong, and the fact that, well, they got more snow than us, but a lot went right here, and we met as a group, we had a plan, we decided to stay on it so that when it started to go 2-3 inches of an hour, we didn't lose it. We did a parking ban, we let people know about it, we towed cars where we had to tow, and everybody stayed with the storm and follow up, and the sun is now cooperating, so, all right, let's check. Beautiful downtown in the snow. Nothing better, huh? I mean, this is why we live here. I felt bad for all those people down in the warm weather playing, golf, missing this storm. There's something exciting about these storms. And I've actually been away for an event, not long, but I'm like, oh no, I'm missing it. They got like 2 inches of snow. And a great time. Thank you to everybody that does these events. This care at Fraticelli Oil on the left, on the bottom there. So many people, so many sponsors, so many volunteers. Thank you. It's such a fun. This thing usually takes off at 10 and it teeters down around 12:30. It stayed packed the whole day. Thank you. It's such a big deal. These are days we're creating memories, and the kids just had a phenomenal time, so thank you. There's the new Fallbrook School. We had a lot more conversation. We had a guest last week, And there's the rendering. Did you go to Fallbrook, Pat?
I did not.
You did. Lancaster. Did you really?
I did.
Yeah. So Fallbrook School, and we've done a number of presentations. We're going to be out there to make sure everybody knows everything there is to know about it. And the Leominster High School annual Winter Carnival is always, let me tell you, you want to talk about creative kids? Right up there at the high school. And then the kindergarten registration is open and they saved the seat for you. So how cool is that, huh? That's their marketing. Moose-Knock Brook site working right through the snowy winter. We have cameras so you can watch the progress. Right now they're underneath. They're actually underneath working. It's kind of like really cool to get down there. It's like 68 degrees so the concrete can cure. And the next concrete pour for the culvert base is next week. And Scott, I'd like us to get down there and get some footage. It's such an interesting project. We can't get everybody down here. Anyway, Throwback Thursday. Look at that. Meeting of the minds over spaghetti, huh? Look at that. There's Mark Bedanza, there's Bob Savatelli. Can't even imagine what that conversation was, but I recognize so many people, Frank Odinger, so many people in that picture. And I had no gray hair, so what does that say? And there you are. All right, thanks, Pat. This has been good. We'll get you back on.
Yeah, definitely.
Talk more about this, and we'll do a podcast
Yes.
with this. This is interesting stuff, and I have hopes that Taj is still around. And I'm not saying that to add color to the interview here, but I really do think he will show up someday. And so anybody that has information, certainly reach out to the Leominster Police Department, ask for the Detective Bureau, Pat Aubuchon in particular. If you don't feel comfortable, call my office. There's no lines recorded. You can talk to me. I'll make sure all the information gets passed on. Out of time here. Thanks, Pat. That was good
Thank you.
stuff. Good night, Paul. God bless you. Remember, the world is run by those who show up. Thanks for showing up. We had a full crew back here. You should see all the people that make this happen. Thank you for showing up.
Inside Leominster is brought to you in part through the generous support of MP Crowley Incorporated. And by Rockland Trust, where each relationship matters.
This is LTV.